We have walked through the frozen passes and ruined forts of the north. We have survived the ancient, suffocating jungles and the wrathful gods of the south. Tonight, we turn our faces toward the rising sun. We are traveling east. To understand the supernatural in eastern India, you must first understand its geography. This is not a land of dry deserts or neat, modern grids. The East is defined by water, red earth, and ancient, unyielding forests. It is a landscape that feels like it is constantly consuming itself and being reborn. Let us start at the edge of the map, where the land shatters into the sea. This is Bengal, home to the Sundarbans, the largest mangrove forest on the planet. The Sundarbans is a labyrinth of saltwater rivers, mudflats, and trees with roots that spike out of the ground like wooden daggers. It is a beautiful, terrifying place where the water is thick with crocodiles and the forests are prowled by the Royal Bengal tiger. The people here live on the razor's edge of survival. When you live in a place where the tide can wash away your village in a single night, you do not just respect nature, you worship it in sheer terror. Moving inland, the salt water turns to fresh water. We follow the great Hooghly and Ganges rivers up into the plains of Bihar. These rivers are the lifelines of the subcontinent, but they are also mass graves. For thousands of years, the ashes and bodies of the dead have been given to these waters. The soil along these banks is unimaginably fertile, fed by centuries of decay. South of the rivers, the landscape hardens. We enter Jharkhand and Odisha. This is the Chota Nagpur Plateau, a region of deep, impenetrable forests, roaring waterfalls, and massive mineral deposits. The earth here is literally red. It is an ancient, tribal heartland. The indigenous communities here, the Santals, the Mundas, and the Orans, have lived in these forests long before empires were built. Their gods do not sit in golden temples. Their gods are the massive salt trees, the silent stones, and the dark mountains. And finally, further northeast, across the mighty Brahmaputra river, lies Assam, a land of rolling tea gardens that stretch into the mist, surrounded by hills that hide some of the oldest, most secretive centers of mysticism in the world. The East is a landscape of extremes. It is the intellectual capital of India, producing Nobel laureates, poets, and philosophers. Yet, just a few miles outside the bustling, colonial-era streets of Kolkata or the IT hubs of Bhubaneswar, you will find villages where time stopped 1,000 years ago. In these places, the darkness is absolute. The rivers whisper. The red dust stains on your skin. And the old things, the things that feed on fear and blood, are still very much awake. Settle in. Let the water rise. We are entering the East. The folklore of Eastern India feels fundamentally different from the rest of the country. In the north, folklore is often tied to tragedy, a murdered prince, a wronged queen, a cursed palace. In the south, folklore is tied to primal, territorial gardens. But in the East, the horror is rooted in practice. It is rooted in Tantra and the pursuit of raw, cosmic power. Eastern India, particularly Bengal and Assam, is the historical epicenter of tantric traditions. This is a path of spirituality that does not shy away from the grotesque, the macabre, or the taboo. In the West, black magic is often seen as a rebellion against God. In the East, dark magic, known as Kala Jadoo, is just another method of speaking to the divine. It is the harnessing of energy from the cremation grounds, from bone, from ash, and from blood. Here, the line between the living and the dead is incredibly porous. The central deity of this region is Kali, the fierce, dark mother goddess who wears a garland of severed heads and a skirt of human arms. She is worshipped in the dead of night, often on the night of the new moon, Amavasya. She destroys the ego, but her imagery is a constant reminder that creation and violent destruction are the exact same force. Because of this deep connection to the macabre, the spirits of the East are not just sad, wandering ghosts. They are often entities that have been summoned, manipulated, or twisted by human hands. They are spirits bound by spells written in blood on banyan leaves. They are creatures born from the unholy rituals performed at midnight on the burning ghats, where the ashes of the dead are still warm. When you hear a story about a ghost in Bihar or Odisha, it is rarely a story about a haunted house. It is a story about the woods, the pond behind the house, the old cremation ground, or the dark road. It is about a nature that is saturated with black magic. In the East, the monsters do not just want to scare you, they want to consume you. They want your flesh, they want your sanity, and they want your soul to fuel their own dark ascensions. Let us meet the entities that wait in the eastern damp. Our first entity resides in the rural villages of Bengal. Human instinct is built on familiarity. When a child hears its mother's voice, it runs to her. When a husband hears his wife call his name, he answers. The entity known as the Nishi Dak weaponizes this exact instinct. Nishi means night, and Dak means call. It is the cruelest form of hunting. The Nishi is not a natural spirit. It is believed to be an entity controlled by a powerful tantric, a dark sorcerer. The sorcerer requires human life force to complete a specific, forbidden ritual, and the Nishi is the hound he sends to fetch it. Imagine sleeping in your village home. It is 2 a.m. The air is thick and still. Suddenly, from the darkness outside your window, you hear your brother calling your name. He sounds distressed. He is asking for your help. You know your brother lives 2 villages over. Logic dictates he shouldn't be here, at least not at this hour. But the voice is perfect. Every inflection, every emotional crack in the tone, it is unmistakably him. The folklore explicitly states a terrifying rule. The Nishi can only call your name twice. If you answer on the first or second call, if you open your door and step out into the darkness, the Nishi has you. You will never be seen again. Your body is taken to the tantric, and your soul is consumed by the ritual. This is why, even today, in the deep interiors of rural Bengal, mothers teach their children a strict, unbreakable rule. If you hear someone calling your name at night, you must never, ever answer until they have called it a third time. Because the Nishi, bound by the rigid laws of its dark magic, cannot speak a name 3 times, if you wait for the third call, you are safe. But if you open the door at 2, you are into the void. We travel now to the southern tip of Bengal, deep into the impenetrable mangrove swamps of the Sundarbans. Here, the fishermen navigate the narrow, twisting saltwater rivers on small wooden boats. They are completely at the mercy of the tides, the tigers, and the darkness. But their greatest fear is the Aleya. In English, it translates to the marsh goat's light. Science will tell you that these glowing orbs are simply the oxidation of phosphine and methane gases produced by decaying organic matter in the mud, a chemical reaction, a natural phenomenon, nothing supernatural. But science does not comfort a fisherman who is completely lost in a labyrinth of dark water at midnight. According to local folklore, the Aleya are the trapped souls of fishermen who died violent, agonizing deaths in the swamps. Men who were pulled under by crocodiles or drowned in sudden cyclones. Because their bodies were never found and given proper cremation rites, their souls ignite into floating, mesmerizing orbs of colored fire. They hover just above the black water. Some are blue, some are sickly green, some are a bright, burning orange. The horror of the Aleya is their behavior. They are not static. They possess a cruel, mocking intelligence. If a lost fisherman sees an Aleya, it will slowly drift away from him, retreating into the deeper, narrower channels of the mangroves. The fisherman, desperate for a way out and assuming the light belongs to another human boat, will follow it. The Aleya will lead him perfectly into a trap. It will guide his boat into shallow mud banks where it gets permanently stuck, or into the hunting territory of a tiger. Once the victim is hopelessly stranded and panic sets in, the light simply blinks out, leaving them in absolute, suffocating darkness, surrounded by the predators of the swamp. The Aleya is the beautiful, glowing face of a watery grave. We move to the borders of Bihar and Bengal, exploring an entity born from societal tragedy. In Eastern folklore, ghosts are highly categorized by how they died and who they were in life. The Shankchunni is perhaps the most tragic and the most vengeful of the female entities. A Shankchunni is the spirit of a married woman who died shortly after her wedding, often due to foul play, domestic violence, or a tragic accident while she was still wearing her bridal finery. Her name comes from the shank, the traditional white conch shell bangles worn by married Bengali women. The Shankchunni does not haunt houses. She haunts ancient, sprawling trees, usually the mango or the neem tree, located near ponds at the head of the village. She is perpetually trapped in a state of unfulfilled desire. She wants to be a bride. She wants the domestic life that was violently stolen from her. Because of this, she does not usually kill men. She targets other married women. The law states that if a newly married woman walks past a Shankchunni's tree at dusk, the liminal hour between day and night, the spirit will drop from the branches. The possession is swift and absolute. The Shankchunni forces the living woman's soul out and takes over her body. The horror is psychological. The possessed woman returns home to her husband and her family. She looks the same, but she acts differently. She demands vast amount of food, only eating raw fish. She moves with a strange, jerky stiffness, and late at night, the husband might wake up to see his wife sitting in the corner of the room, her head twisted at a biologically impossible angle, smiling at him in the dark. By the time the family realizes the woman they have been living with is not their daughter-in-law, but a centuries-old spirit wearing his skin, the original woman's soul is usually lost forever. Rivers in the East are sacred, but they are also incredibly deadly. In Bihar and Jharkhand, the monsoon season turns quiet streams into raging, muddy torrents that swallow bridges and roads. And waiting beneath the brown foam is the Pandubba. The Pandubba is an aquatic entity, the spirit of a person who drowned in the river and is now tethered to the exact location of their death. Unlike a ghost that wanders, the Pandubba is a prisoner to the water, and it wants company. The folklore of the Pandubba taps into the primal fear of what lies beneath the surface. You cannot see into the muddy rivers of the East. You have no idea what is inches below your feet. The entity hunts by mimicry. A villager might be walking along the river bank at noon. It is broad daylight. Suddenly, they see a beautiful, shiny brass pot bobbing into the shallow water near the edge, or perhaps a piece of expensive jewelry. Greed and curiosity take over. The villager wades into the knee-deep water to grab the object. But as their fingers close around the brass pot, the illusion shatters. The object dissolves into mud, and from the murky water beneath them, two cold, incredibly strong, grey hands shoot upward, wrapping around their ankles. The Pandubba does not pull you under immediately. It drags you. It pulls the victim down the sloping riverbed, deeper and deeper into the freezing channel. The victim thrashes and screams, but the grip is like iron. The most disturbing part of the lore is that the Pandubba does not eat the victim. It simply holds them underwater until the bubbles stop. It adds another soul to its water purgatory, ensuring it never has to be alone in the dark. We step out of the villages and into the old, crumbling colonial mansions of Kolkata and Patna. These massive houses, with their high ceilings, louvered windows, and endless corridors, are perfect incubators for the supernatural. And one of the strangest entities reported in these urban ruins is the Bhoot Billi, literally the ghost cat. But this is not a spirit of a deceased pet. The Bhoot Billi is a demonic entity that simply chooses to manifest in a feline form. It is described as abnormally large, the size of a leopard, but with the proportions of a domestic house cat. Its fur is the absolute black of a moonless night, and its eyes glow with a harsh, unnatural yellow light. The terror of the Bhoot Billi is not immediate violence. It is an omen. It is a creature of deep psychological dread. It appears in homes where someone is about to die, or where a terrible tragedy is looming. It will be seen sitting on the high boundary walls or staring down from the wooden rafters of a dusty attic. If you make eye contact with the Bhoot Billi, it does not hiss or run away. It stares back with a terrifying, human-like intelligence. The law states that if the cat looks directly into your eyes and blinks slowly, it has cursed you. Your mind will begin to fray. You will hear scratching on your bedroom door all night. You will find dead, mangled birds placed perfectly in the center of your bed. The Bhoot Billy drives its victims to paranoia and madness, turning the safety of their own home into a hunting ground. It reminds that the dark corners of our houses do not belong to us. They belong to whatever is quiet enough to hide there. South into Orissa, the landscape is dotted with the ruins of ancient empires and battlefields where thousands of men died in the centuries past. On the lonely, unlit highways that cut through these historical plains, truck drivers and late-night travelers fear the Khanda. The Khanda is a headless entity. Unlike the Western headless horseman, which is usually a styled, Gothic myth, the Khanda is brutally visceral. It is believed to be the spirit of a soldier who was decapitated in battle. Denied a whole body for cremation, his soul is trapped into a loop of violent confusion. The encounters are always the same. A driver is alone on a straight stretch of highway at 3 a.m. In the distance, illuminated by the headlights, a figure steps into the middle of the road. The driver slams on the brakes. As the car skids to a halt, the headlights illuminate the figure. It is a man, dressed in tattered, ancient clothing. He is holding a rusty, curved sword, and whereas it should be, there is only a ragged stump of a neck, slowly dripping dark, coagulated blood onto the asphalt. The Khanda does not speak, because it cannot, but it demands tribute. If the driver attempts to swerve around the entity or put the car in reverse, the Khanda will strike the vehicle with unnatural force, shattering the glass and dragging the driver out onto the road. The only way to survive a Khanda is to stop the car, turn off the engine, turn off the headlights, and wait in total darkness. You must offer it absolute respect. You sit in the pitch black, listening to the heavy footsteps of the headless corpse walking slowly around your car, dragging its sword against the metal doors. Only when the footsteps fade into the night can you turn the key and drive away. The Khanda is a lesson in humility. The past is never truly dead. It is just waiting on the highway. We cross the great river into Assam. The folklore here is deeply intertwined with nature and animism. In Assam, ancient, massive trees, specifically the banyan and the peepal, are not just plants. They are institutions. They are sacred places known as Than. As the protector of these sacred groves is a powerful, holy spirit known as Pura Dangoria. Pura Dangoria is a fascinating entity because he is not inherently evil. He is a guardian. He appears as an impossibly tall, elderly man dressed entirely in pristine white traditional Assamese clothing, complete with a white turban. He rides a magnificent, ghostly white horse. He patrols the ancient groves and the old dirt roads that run alongside them. The horror of Pura Dangoria is the horror of the divine. It is the terror of encountering a being that operates on a moral axis far higher and stricter than human laws. If you walk past a sacred tree at night with a pure heart, Pura Dangoria will simply watch you pass. He might even guide you if you are lost. But if you enter his territory with a polluted mind, if you are drunk, if you are carrying impure meat, or if you disrespect the trees by cutting a branch or relieving yourself near the roots, his judgment is immediate and catastrophic. He does not need to physically touch you. Buratangoria will simply block your path. He will stare at you from the back of his white horse. The sheer, overwhelming spiritual pressure of his presence is enough to break a human mind. Victims who have angered him are found the next morning completely catatonic, their hair turned white, their minds erased by the terrifying awe of encountering an ancient woodland god. He is a reminder that in the East, nature demands absolute submission. We remain in Assam for our final entity, and this one is pure, unadulterated malevolence. In the deep, stagnant ponds and abandoned lakes of the Assamese countryside, there lives a demon known as the Bak. The Bak is a shapeshifter, a murderer, and a parasite. Its natural form is rarely seen, but it is described as a grotesque, humanoid creature covered in dark scales with razor-sharp teeth and an insatiable hunger for raw fish and human flesh. It hunts in the most insidious ways possible. If a lone fisherman goes to a secluded pond at dusk, the Bak will stalk him from the depths. It does not just drag him under, it waits until the fisherman is packing up his catch. The Bak will strike from the water, dragging the man down and drowning him. And then the true horror begins. The Bak assumes the physical form of the murdered fisherman. It takes his face, his voice, and his memories. The creature, wearing the fisherman's skin, will pick up the basket of fish and walk back to the village. It will enter the dead man's home. It will sit with his wife, eat his food, and sleep in his bed. The Bak is a flawless imposter. It can live among humans for weeks, sometimes months, slowly feeding on the life force of the family, bringing disease, rot, and endless bad luck to the household. The only telltale sign of a Bak is an overwhelming, nauseating smell of dead fish that seems to linger in the corners of the house, no matter how much it is cleaned. To kill a Bak is incredibly difficult. According to folklore, the demon's life force is tied to a specific pouch on its body. Unless an exorcist can identify the creature and destroy the pouch, the Bak will continue to wear the faces of the dead, living quietly among us, hiding in plain sight. It is the ultimate violation. The monster is not under the bed. The monster is sitting across the dinner table. The East is a land where the earth remembers everything. The blood spilled in old rituals, the ashes dissolved into the rivers, the promises made in the dark forests. Nothing is forgiven. Nothing is forgotten. The folklore here is a mirror to the landscape. It is beautiful, deeply complex, and utterly unforgiving. If you find yourself wandering the red dirt roads of Jharkhand or boating through the mangroves of Bengal, remember the rules. Do not answer the voice calling your name. Do not follow the light in the marsh. And if you see a man in white waiting under a banyan tree, always lower your eyes and keep walking. Thank you for joining me on this descent into the East. If you survived the humidity and the shadows, please subscribe, leave a comment, and help IndiCabre grow. Next time, we will turn our eyes to the west, where the deserts hold the secrets buried under mountains of sand. Until then, keep your doors locked. Good night.